What's going on, ladies and gents? Welcome to VEVE Investments. I appreciate you tuning in. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about different design ideas that I have for the VEVE home space. So if you guys enjoy the content, make sure to like and subscribe. Comment down below what you want to see in a future episode. Without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy. So I wanted to use today's video as a little bit of inspiration for you guys. I know we've talked about ChatGPT in the past. Today we're going to be talking about another AI bot that you guys can leverage for the VEVEverse, and that's going to be MidJourney. So perhaps you've used the bot before, perhaps you haven't. Either way, we're going to be talking about the basics as well as some tips and tricks that you guys can use with the software to prepare for your home space. So with that being said, let's hop right into the first point. So because we're covering MidJourney for a lot of today's episode, I wanted to make sure I started off by explaining the bot for those who haven't used it before. So ChatGPT is going to be an AI text bot, whereas MidJourney is going to be an AI image generator. Now, just like GPT, the better you are at the prompts that you put in, the better results you are going to get. So the way you're going to input a prompt is you're going to put /imagine, and then you're going to type out all the details of whatever you want generated. Now it's going to generate images in groups of 4. And when those images are generated, what you're going to notice is you're going to see U1, 2, 3, and 4, and then V1, 2, 3, and 4. V stands for variation. So if you end up liking one of the 4 more than the others, whether it's the first image, the second, the third, or the fourth, you're going to click the corresponding number. And now the bot's going to generate different variations of that specific image. The U is going to represent upscale, okay? So say, for example, you're satisfied with the image, you don't want to create any other variations of it. You click upscale, and what it's going to do is it's going to enlarge that image for better resolution. Now, speaking of resolution, the best way to get the best resolution on an image when using the bot is after you upscale an image, you're going to see open in browser in the bottom left. Click on that and then right click to save. Do not right click and save before you open it in a browser. You will get better resolution doing this. Now you are going to have additional settings as well. The way you're going to access them is similar to inputting a prompt. You're just going to put /settings, click enter, and then the little menu in the bottom right is exactly what you'll see pop up. One specific setting I want to talk about in this menu is something called remix mode. We just talked about creating different variations of a specific image, but that would be creating variations on its own. You're not telling the bot to add or take away certain things. Remix mode allows you to do exactly that. So by turning on remix mode, the next time you go to generate a variation of an image, an option will pop up to edit your existing prompt. So for example, if you end up generating a character that isn't smiling, but you want them to smile, then all you need to do is add a smile to the prompt, regenerate using remix mode, and it should regenerate that image with a smile included. If you want to change the aspect ratio of an image, what you're going to put is --AR. AR obviously representing aspect ratio. You're going to put a space afterwards, that's key, or it will not work. And then whatever aspect ratio you want, 16:9, 2:3, whatever it is. Niji 5 is another prompt that you guys can input. And this is a really good prompt to use because it's optimized for emotional, dramatic, and artistic illustrations. So I do actually have a couple examples in this video, so stay tuned for those. And if you're having trouble coming up with specific prompts yourself, you can also use ChatGPT to come up with more detailed prompts that you can just copy and paste into MidJourney. Now, what are some ways that you guys can use MidJourney to prepare for your VEVE home space? Well, one, I was thinking about empty wall space. The team just talked about that in April's community update video. Them releasing 2D art on the platform was a way for them to prepare for empty wall space when people get access to their homes. Another solution to that is producing your own art through MidJourney. So all 3 images on screen are going to be images I generated myself and using the exact prompt that I have pasted at the bottom. Imagine a minimalist artwork inspired by selective color photography. Use the color red, or in the case of the second and third example, I just replaced that word with gold and blue. Then I added the Niji 5 prompt for artistic illustrations, and I wanted to make sure the image wasn't just a square, which is MidJourney's default size. So I told the bot I want an aspect ratio of 2:3. Now, we've talked about creating favorites lists in the past of 3D models to prepare for the VEVEverse. So combining 3D picture frames with the images you generate in MidJourney is exactly how you'll make this work. We know we can bring 3D models in. We know we can bring PNGs and JPEGs in. So all you need to do is this. Download your picture frames, toss them on a wall, and line those PNGs and JPEGs up with the frames. So in a similar way to creating a portfolio of 3D models, you guys can start creating a portfolio of 2D art for your wall space. Now, another way you guys can use the bot is by having it take reference to certain images. So when I was thinking about how I could use this feature, I thought about how I cropped out the VEVEverse home space when it was augmented into reality. And I said, okay, what if I plug this into the bot and then I have it come up with different homes inspired after that specific design? So I said, imagine a floating home in the sky that is modeled and inspired after this. And then I copied and pasted the address link to the image. This is what I got back. So right away, I got 4 images that give me inspiration as to what I can do with a space like our home space that we're going to get access to in phase 1. Oh, huh. I'm not complaining about that. And that actually reminds me of the most recent video we just saw in April's community update video. There was one thing I forgot to point out, and it was the fact that there was 4 houses on that plot of land. So I don't know if you guys were thinking the same way as me, but when I originally saw the unveiling at DCon, I assumed that home that they showed us, Dan's home, was the standard building. I didn't realize that the entire plot is customizable. I thought it was the space inside and around the house. So in the most recent video, it confirmed that no, they had 4 smaller buildings on that same plot of land. So when I look at images like this on the right, before I would have looked at that and go, oh, well, you can't do that with the space. Now I look at it and I go, well, you know, you might be able to do this with that space. Now I want to show you guys an example of remix mode. So here's one of the photos that it produced for my home space. This one I really liked. But what I wanted to see was an observation dome. So what I did was I clicked remix mode, and all I added to the prompt was add an observation dome. Here's what it gave me back. So in addition to adding the dome at the top, it also cleaned up the bottom, right? There's not as much going on, a little cleaner, which I like. Same thing with the middle of the structure. In the first image, the pillars didn't really make too much sense. In the second image, they cleaned that up. Makes a lot more sense now. And then the position of the shrubbery is better also. And as I specified in the prompt, I wanted to add an observation dome. And as you see at the top there, it did. Now this is one of 4 images it generated. I just chose to upscale this one, but it did also generate other options. Now here's another application that I thought about for MidJourney. Custom home branding, right? If we look at the Avengers Tower, you have the logo at the top of it. You can do that with your home space with MidJourney. All you really need to simply do is /imagine, come up with a simple logo inspired after XYZ, right? So I had the bot come up with a V for obvious reasons. And I can slap that logo right on my 3D model home space and turn my home into my own Avengers headquarters. Now this point's going to be super quick. I wanted to include it in the video because it is a design idea. It has nothing to do with MidJourney. I just thought that some people would probably be interested in doing something similar. And that's having some sort of live feed or billboard that displays the live token burn for OMI. I feel like for anybody focused more on the crypto side of things, that's something you would really want. And if I am honest, I think I have seen somebody else mention it on Twitter before as well. Next up, this one's interesting. I came up with the idea of paging friends. So if you guys think back to the cavernous videos we watched before, there was one video that showcased an individual pushing lights in his physical room that would interact with the digital ones inside of cavernous. And this can happen vice versa, right? Somebody inside of cavernous can interact with them inside of the virtual space, and then the panels in a physical room can light up in response. So I was thinking about people like, you know, you got Fro Komi and Captain Era, right? I always see them going back and forth on Twitter. Jokingly, of course, but take those two as an example. Let's say Fro Komi's in the VEVEverse, Captain Era isn't. Fro wants to bug Captain Era a little bit. He walks over to his wall, he presses the button, and then he's paging Captain Era, who might be sitting in his room seeing the light flash on and off, right? Or even the VEVE collective. They do the VEVE Wednesdays, right? Unfortunately, they post a little later. I'm in bed by that time, or otherwise I'd be a little bit more involved with it, but I can imagine, you know, the group of people in VEVE sitting down to do one of those videos, and, you know, somebody might be running late, and everybody, you know, sitting in that virtual room ready to record, might be pressing the button, paging the guy who's late, being like, come on, get over here, right? Or vice versa. The person who's late might be pressing the button, being like, I'm on my way. There's so many things that you can do with something like this, but just simply paging back and forth, right? Interacting with somebody in the physical world when you're inside of the VEVEverse. I also got the idea because when Dan had originally unveiled that user board that shows all of the people inside of your virtual space, something like this would be a way of interacting with those who aren't inside of the virtual space, if that makes sense. Next up, this is something I mentioned on Twitter in the past. I was also talking about it with Dino after our interview, and that's creating content houses in the VEVEverse, right? Communal spaces for content creation. I can walk into a home that has a full recording studio, a green screen wall, has all the camera placements set up to track the user when they're moving around. Then I open the door to another room and oh, there's a podcast set up, right? Where I can sit down in this chair, the microphone on the table is placed in the exact same spot where the microphone is on my desk. And I can sit there and film a podcast with fellow content creators from other countries around the world. Maybe after we're done filming or recording that podcast, then we can go to a communal viewing room where when the video is done being edited and rendered, we can all watch it together in one space. The idea of a content house to me is very attractive because it's a way to network with those in the community and then obviously leverage other people's skills as well. What you guys are seeing on screen is obviously only 3 examples. There's so much you could do with this. But not only do I think it's a great design idea, this is something we will be able to do in phase 1, right? The home space is big enough to already do something like this. So next up, you can use MidJourney to take inspiration for certain rooms that you want to create inside of your home. For anyone who ended up grabbing the coloring book in the store, you guys would have also gotten 49 room concepts for your VEVEverse home space, okay? Generating images like this will only help bring your creations to life easier. Now, one thing to highlight here that you should always take into consideration when designing your home spaces now are hyperlinks. Hyperlinks are going to change a lot of things. So let's say, for example, you walk into some form of art gallery, and as soon as you walk in, you see art hanging on the wall. In this case, I have my comics that I just released. You can walk right up to that image, click on it, and that hyperlink can then take you to a third-party website where you can then go buy the art. This is going to allow users to set up full virtual stores, but stores that don't even look like stores, right? Like you don't need a checkout desk, you don't need the front desk, you don't need any of that stuff. It can just be a standard home space. You could have a picture on the wall or a statue in the corner. You can walk up to it, click on it, and buy it. So the potential here for e-commerce is massive. Here's going to be another piece meant to inspire. So this is going to be a collectibles showroom display. Maybe you want to set up a larger room, some lounge chairs in the middle, some big glass displays with shelving that showcases all of your Marvel comics or golden moments. Now, I'm quite a visual person, so I don't really have too much trouble picturing this type of stuff in my head. But for those who aren't too visual or wouldn't consider themselves too creative, MidJourney can take your game to a whole other level. You can type in a collectible showroom with big glass displays and large shelves, and it will come up with something like this. Now, there's one more design idea that I want to talk about, and this one's a little unique. I don't know if it's going to be possible, so a little disclaimer here. But we've talked in the past about different rooms leading to different destinations, and how I got this idea from Snowpiercer, the train with 1001 cars, and a lot of those carts having different themes. But on a particular part of the train, they have the night car. And as part of the night car, there are little box or cubed rooms that are designed to essentially take the person to a whole other environment, right? Like, this is a story about a train that's 1001 cars long. It never stops. It's carrying the last of humanity. So the passengers on that train can't get off. Now, I was thinking about the fact that we are going to have the ability to put video streams and live feeds on walls inside of the VEVEverse. We've already seen this with our cavernous videos. If there is a way for me to have a very small cubed room that I line the floor, the ceiling, and all the walls with video screens, I'm wondering if I would be able to immerse myself into different environments, right? The reason why I'm wondering if it's going to be possible is because the only way I see it working is if you can sync the screens together. But if I can create an environment where I walk into a cubed room and then I feel like I'm floating in the middle of space, or I feel like I've just walked into the middle of a tropical rainforest, or I'm standing in the middle of a barren desert, right? Whatever it is. I mean, even just thinking about something like meditation. I can think of so many use cases for meditation alone with a small cubed room like that makes you feel like you've been taken to a surreal environment. Now, I understand today's video was a little bit different. I just wanted to kind of share my thoughts and, my ideas in terms of what I want to do with my space and where I want to take things. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it and hopefully you guys took some inspiration from it. As for our next episode, I'm going to be talking about ways that the VEVE platform can benefit you long term. If you guys are interested in finding out more about that, make sure to tune in on Thursday and we'll be walking through our list then. But if you guys enjoy the content, make sure to like and subscribe. Comment down below what you want to see in a future episode. And as for our next, I'll catch you then.